Micaiah called it again.
Okay. Yeah. So is it Micaiah or Micah?
Micah?
Let's see. You're live with Eric and V.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes. Is it
Yes.
Micaiah or Micah?
It is Micaiah.
Micaiah.
You're
Oh,
correct the first time.
totally got it.
Nice.
So it says in the notes you want to, you would like for us to define redemption and whether or not that's a virtue?
Yeah.
Okay.
Ooh, interesting.
When I think of redemption, I have a hard time placing it in a moral category or an ethical category, but it seems to fit nicely when it comes to being a virtue. Seems to be the only one I can think of at this point, honestly.
I am so jaded by it that I think I might be a really bad person to ask about it. So, V, do you want to take this? Because
Yeah.
otherwise I'm going to bring like a really jaded view.
I love this question, frankly. So I just finished watching Our Flag Means Death, and so did Eric. And we won't give any big spoilers or anything. You should go watch it. It's on HBO. It's amazing. But
All right.
a big
HBO.
through line is redemption.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it's on the top of my mind because we just watched it, but this is a very common trope of redemption, not necessarily in a big, universe changing way in like the Christian faith, but very much I didn't like this character, and then that character did something to redeem themselves in my eyes, and now I like them and care about what
Right.
happens to them. And to me,
Yeah.
I think that very much is an ethical thing. Because what you
So
see,
you do think it's ethical?
I do, because what you essentially decide, and this is going to sound very cold and calculating, and I don't mean it in that way, but when you look at somebody and you dislike them because you have judged them to be harmful or in some way dangerous, you have put them outside of your circle, outside of your social sphere. They are no longer somebody that you will act ethically towards because you care about them. And then redemption is the process by which they prove to you that they belong inside of that social sphere. Maybe not in a privileged position like your best friend, but you bring them into that, and all of a sudden you care about what happens to them. So I would say that redemption is crucial to an ethical worldview.
Interesting. So kind of,
Okay.
could I frame that as like an absolution of transgression? Like you need to do something
Not an
wrong in order to be
absolution.
redeemed.
Not necessarily absolution. I wouldn't say that. I think a lot of the time there still needs to be some kind of reconciliation. But I do think that it's the emotional change from you are not part of my group to, okay, maybe with some caveats or asterisks, you can be part of my group.
Okay, so do you have to have other people?
In order to be redeemed? Yes, absolutely.
And does it have to come from other people?
Yes, in my opinion. I'm just saying that now. I haven't thought about this any longer than it took to answer that question, but sure.
Interesting. So I'm really interested in what the chat has to say, and I'd love for you to get the chance to respond
Yeah,
because
Micaiah,
my
what are your
jadedness,
thoughts?
I think, might be resolved.
Yeah, I was thinking there's a couple different perspectives from a personal from a personal level about redemption, where it's like, say, you did something that a majority would consider irredeemable, so you go to jail for it, but then it comes to light, like Nelson Mandela, right, where he's absolved in the end, and he wasn't actually the one who did it in the first place, right? So he was innocent. But even saying someone is actually guilty of something, at what point, where do you draw the line where they're irredeemable to where they're redeemable? And then from a personal standpoint, some people might say that they've done something that's irredeemable for themselves, or they could think it doesn't matter what I've done, I can be redeemed. What are your thoughts?
Ooh, this is getting deep.
It is. May I?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Okay, so the first piece of it, I think, is I don't think it can fall into virtue. Simply because I think that a lot of people can make healthy choices and go, I don't want this person a part of my life. No matter what they do, they have lost the privilege of being involved in me or my tribe. And I can view that as virtuous. And I can also view, forgiveness and bring them into the tribe as virtuous. And because both of those things are at odds, and I could see virtue in both depending on the situation, I don't think that virtue would fall into it that way.
Okay.
Does that answer that?
Yeah, that answers that part of it for sure.
Okay. And the other piece, I'm going to get crazy personal here.
Go for it.
Okay.
I had a stepdad in my life who was an absolute POS.
That's piece of shit for people who don't know.
Yeah. Who was very, 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 very religious and abusive in many ways. And he would turn to, if he told God that he was super totes sorry, then he would be forgiven. He would get that redemption in his own eyes and then come back.
Right.
And then the cycle would continue. In that case,
Right.
I thought that redemption as an idea really didn't work because I viewed it on a personal self-applied basis. So V, when you said that it has to come from other people, that kind of supports that jaded notion that I had in my head. And so
Yeah.
I've got to chew on that.
Yeah, because that is the problem that I have with religions that kind of sell you redemption. Because what it ends up doing, so for example, if you're Catholic and you go to a confession, you've confessed your sins and you have been redeemed of those sins for that week. But
Right.
the people you hurt have no way of knowing that that has been the case. And you may still continue to
Right.
hurt people.
Yeah.
So the individual's concept of redemption, I think, is very nebulous. I think some people have an overinflated sense of what they can get away with and what makes them, I'm always going to be redeemable, right? All I need to do is say sorry and I can keep doing what I've been doing. And then I think other people, for whatever reasons or whatever, experiences they've had in the past, definitely feel a lot more likely to be irredeemable, right? They're going to say, I've done something terrible and I'm just going to self-ostracise from the group. I'm going to walk away because there's nothing I could possibly do to make up for it. Which ironically, most of the time, if you just express that in and of itself most likely will redeem you with that group. But I think that is just a very personal, emotional reaction to the possibility of being ostracized by other people.
So I got to shout out to Jesse Chappelle and Compulsive Rambler in the chat. I haven't seen everything going on. I know other people have been super on point, but I've just in checking what's going on, these people are on point today.
Are they?
Compulsive Rambler says redemption, as we read about it in the Bible, was originally the same as ransom or bail. You got redeemed by being paid for, but as salvation theology changed over the years, that word changed. So that might kind of explain why we have such a confused way of talking about it.
Yeah, the more you look at what Frankenstein's monster modern Christianity is, you're like, no wonder it's so weird and fractured. There are so many points where it doesn't agree with itself.
Yeah, Jesse Chappelle also dropping in definition. We have a whole lot of very, very snippy people saying that they redeem their coupons at the grocery store. Ha ha. But this has been interesting. I like the kind of theme that we've been going on today.
Yeah, Micaiah, any last thoughts for us? As have we kind of given you more to chew on here?
Yeah, I just had one more. I agree with all that, by the way. Religion definitely abuses that, just like many other things. Mm-hmm. But I was honestly thinking about it more from just a secular standpoint, someone going to jail for something. Even if they're not recognized by their peers or others around them, is it possible for them to actually feel redeemed in and of themselves regardless and actually change and become better people?
That makes
despite the fact.
Right.
That makes me think of Megan Phelps Roper and of the other Phelps children who got away from the Westboro Baptist Church.
Right, but that still was it with the support of other people. And I think this is where religion is very insidious, because what you are presenting in that situation is somebody who does not have the opportunity to be redeemed in society or by their peers. And so they need to feel that relief in some way. And someone can come in and say, it doesn't matter what other people think about you. As long as God loves you, you're fine. And that does grant you that sense of redemption. And in that moment, it's a good thing to feel. But,
until it's a get out of jail free card.
Right. And that's the problem. It becomes something where, oh, well, I have changed without actually doing the work of changing beyond feeling like I've changed. Yeah. Right. And that's the big thing, is you can feel like you've changed, but that's not enough to change you.
Yeah. And I've also not made amends for the people that I've wronged.
Right. And it might just be a lack of ability to do that, right? It's not necessarily that somebody doesn't want to make absolution, but it might just not be possible for them to do that.
What about victimless crimes? What if someone is, a shoplifter and they went on a huge spree and they've been put away for a while for that, but after some point they're like, okay, well, that was wrong, but I didn't really hurt anyone in the end, so it's okay.
I
don't know where redemption and virtue fall in with that. I don't even know if that applies for me personally.
Well, it's an interesting thought, because that's essentially Les Mis, right? Like, was stealing that loaf of bread a bad thing? Maybe he believed it was in the beginning because people were telling him that it was, and then he engaged new information and was like, oh, actually, that was not something that I should be ashamed of, right? So I think a lot of it is just absorbing new information around new people and allowing that to change your worldview, and by definition, the view of yourself. But this is, I could talk about this forever. We're going to need to let you go, Micaiah, but this was a great conversation.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Micaiah, thank you for calling.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Bye.